My deranged, baby-obsessed mother forced me into insane pregnancy drills, trafficked my womb, and nearly erased my identity, until I exposed her monstrous surrogacy cult built on coercion, lies, and shattered lives. Starting when I was 8 years old, she forced my sister Daniela and me to wear pregnancy simulation suits for hours every day. 20 pounds of sand were strapped to our stomachs while we practiced breathing exercises and watched birthing videos. If we complained about back pain, she'd add more weight and say, "Real mothers don't whine." She even made us practice breastfeeding with creepy dolls that cried if you didn't hold them correctly. While I spent every session plotting my escape, Daniela embraced it as if it were her one true purpose. She'd waddle around the house with perfect posture, rubbing her fake belly and talking to it out loud. By the time Daniela turned 16, she was begging Mom to let her be a practice surrogate for her infertile work friends. When she turned 18, Mom threw her a massive party, not for graduating high school, but for signing her first surrogacy contract. Everyone called her a blessing and an angel, while I sat in the corner, feeling like I was at a livestock auction. Within 3 years, Daniela had carried 3 babies for 3 different couples. Each time she came home from the hospital, Mom paraded her around town like she'd won a Nobel Prize. "Look at my generous daughter, giving the gift of life," she'd say. Meanwhile, I was earning a biomedical degree, volunteering at women's shelters, and learning about bodily autonomy. But none of that mattered to Mom. "Such a waste of a perfectly good uterus," she'd tell anyone who'd listen. Her sister has blessed 3 families, while this one hoards her fertility for herself. The most terrifying part was watching Daniela deteriorate. After her 4th pregnancy at 22, she could barely walk without pain. Her hips were destroyed, she had constant infections, and her hair was falling out in chunks. When I tried to talk to her about it, she grabbed my hands with tears in her eyes. "Maria, this is what I was made for. My body is a vessel for miracles. Why can't you understand that?" That's when I knew she was gone. I played along just enough to keep Mom off my back. I told her I was considering pregnancy, wore looser clothes to family events, and even Googled fertility clinics in front of her, all while secretly taking the LSAT and applying to law schools across the country. I specialized in reproductive rights and medical ethics, spending years helping women escape forced pregnancy situations. By 28, I was making a difference. When Mom invited me to Daniela's celebration dinner, I figured it was another pregnancy announcement. I was wrong. It was an intervention. "Sweetie, you're not getting any younger," Mom announced, while Daniela sat beside her, belly swollen with her 4th pregnancy. "So, I've taken the liberty of starting your fertility treatments." Before I could respond, she pulled out a syringe filled with hormones. "Just a little boost to get those eggs flowing." I jumped back, but Daniela grabbed my arms from behind. "Please, Maria, just try it. I've already found the perfect couple for your first baby." I screamed and fought, but Mom was already coming at me with the needle. That's when I noticed the other syringes on the table. They'd been planning this. As Mom plunged the needle into my thigh, I felt the cold liquid burn through my muscle. Within minutes, my vision blurred, and my ovaries felt like they were on fire. Through the haze, I heard Mom on the phone. This was trafficking. I woke up in the ICU with ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome so severe they nearly had to remove everything. Mom stood towering over me. "We only brought you here because we wanted to save your womb," was the first thing she said. I pressed the red button for the nurse. She took one look at Mom and escorted her out to perform private examinations. As soon as we were alone, the nurse wrapped her arms around me and asked if I was okay. I broke down crying, realizing how terrible my mother truly was. I opened up to the nurse, unloading everything, the surrogacy, the favoritism, the abuse. She seemed shocked and asked me to repeat everything. The next hour was me pouring out every detail. When I finished, she called hospital security to ban my mother from my room. I didn't know it at the time, but with the help of that one nurse, I was about to make my family pay. The nurse returned 20 minutes later with a uniformed officer who introduced himself as Detective Rodriguez from the Domestic Violence Unit. He pulled up a chair beside my bed while the nurse adjusted my fore. "Maria, I specialize in cases involving reproductive coercion and forced medical procedures," he explained, pulling out a small recorder. "What your mother did constitutes assault. And based on what the nurse told me, this might be part of a larger pattern." Through the glass window of my room, I saw movement in the hallway. My mother was trying to push through the emergency exit door, her face twisted with rage. She spotted me looking and pressed against the glass, mouthing words I couldn't hear at first. Then she exaggerated her lip movements, "Ungrateful bitch." My phone started buzzing on the bedside table. Detective Rodriguez glanced at it as message after message popped up. "May I?" he asked, and I nodded. The texts were from Daniela. "How could you involve the police? Mom was helping you. You're destroying our family. All she wanted was for you to experience motherhood." Detective Rodriguez set the phone down carefully. "This isn't the first complaint we've received about forced fertility treatments. There's been a pattern, particularly involving medical practitioners at certain clinics." He paused, studying my reaction. "Your mother, does she work in the medical field?" My stomach dropped. "She's a receptionist at Blessed Beginnings Fertility Clinic." His expression darkened. A hospital social worker knocked and entered, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes who froze when she saw my chart. Maria Gonzalez? Your mother is Patricia Gonzalez? You know her? I asked. The social worker hesitated, clutching her clipboard tighter. We've had some interactions. She fumbled through her papers, clearly uncomfortable, and handed me pamphlets about domestic violence resources. Detective Rodriguez made notes while I described the intervention dinner. The social worker kept glancing at the door, her hands shaking slightly. I reached for my phone. I need to check something, I said, logging into my medical portal. There it was, dated 3 months ago, right after I'd casually mentioned to Mom that James and I were thinking about our future. My medical power of attorney had been changed to my mother. This isn't my signature, I said, showing them the document. Someone might write like that if they were tracing. Before anyone could respond, a man in an expensive suit strode into the room. I'm representing Patricia Gonzalez. I understand there's been a misunderstanding regarding my client's daughter's medical care. That was fast, Detective Rodriguez muttered. The lawyer smoothed his tie. Maria is clearly suffering from hormone-induced psychosis. Her mother was simply trying to help when Maria became violent. We're requesting an immediate psychiatric evaluation. I'm not psychotic, I protested. The hormones in your system suggest otherwise, the lawyer replied. Ovarian hyperstimulation can cause severe mood disturbances, paranoia, even hallucinations. The hallway filled with noise. Daniela appeared with 5 small children clinging to her maternity dress. Aunt Maria needs help, she announced loudly to anyone who would listen. She's been struggling with jealousy issues for years. Hospital security arrived, trying to maintain order as the children started crying. Daniela bounced the youngest on her hip while rubbing her pregnant belly with her free hand. I grabbed my phone to call my law firm, needing backup. The receptionist answered on the second ring. Oh, Maria, your mother called earlier. She explained your situation. Don't worry, we're handling your caseload while you recover. What? No, I'm fine. I need to speak to the partners. It's best if you focus on getting better. Your mother said the breakdown was quite severe. I hung up, my hands trembling. Through the window, I watched my mother pull something from her purse, my apartment keys, my car keys, and show them to her lawyer. She started reciting my work schedule. Monday, she has court at 9. Tuesday is client meetings until 6. Wednesday, she volunteers at the women's shelter. The lawyer nodded, taking notes. James burst through the door, still in his work clothes. Maria, I got your text. What's? But Daniela intercepted him in the hallway, placing a manicured hand on his arm. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but I saw her gesture toward me, then touch her temple in the universal sign for crazy. She pulled out her phone, showing him something on the screen. The nurse who'd been helping me returned with a plastic bag. These are the belongings you came in with, she said, her expression troubled. She pulled out glossy brochures from Blessed Beginnings Fertility Clinic. The signature matched the one on my power of attorney document. The hospital administrator appeared in the doorway, a thin woman with a practiced smile. Given the circumstances and the family's concerns, we think it might be best to transfer Maria to our psychiatric ward for a full evaluation, just as a precaution. Through the glass, my mother smiled. Detective Rodriguez stood up. She's not going anywhere without a court order. Of course, the administrator said smoothly. We're simply considering all options for Maria's well-being. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my law school mentor, Professor Chen. Just got off the phone with your mother. She's very concerned about your pregnancy delusions. Said you've been fixating on having a baby, but your body won't cooperate. Is everything okay? I wanted to scream. Every avenue of my life was being systematically poisoned. I looked at Detective Rodriguez, then at the social worker who still wouldn't meet my eyes, then at James in the hallway with Daniela whispering in his ear. The evaluation, I said suddenly. I'll do it. I'll prove I'm competent. The lawyer smiled. Excellent. Dr. Margaret Whitfield will perform the evaluation. She's the best in the state. The name sounded familiar. Then it hit me, Mom's book club. Dr. Whitfield had been coming to our house for monthly meetings for over a decade. It was too late to take it back. The administrator was already making arrangements, and my mother's smile through the glass had turned triumphant. The nurse squeezed my hand as she checked my 4-1 last time. She leaned close, pretending to adjust my pillow. Whatever happens, don't sign anything else, she whispered. And check your phone's location settings. Someone's been tracking you. As everyone filed out to make arrangements for my evaluation, I noticed Daniela showing James her phone again. This time, I caught a glimpse of the screen, a text conversation from 2 years ago, when James and I had first started dating. I'd mentioned that maybe someday, far in the future, we might want kids. She was building a case that I'd always wanted children, that this was my own frustrated desire manifesting as paranoia. And from the look on James's face, it was working. The psychiatric evaluation was scheduled for 8 in the morning. I spent the night rehearsing answers in my head, trying to anticipate Dr. Whitfield's questions. The nurse from the earlier shift had slipped me a sedative, whispering that I'd need rest to appear stable. But sleep wouldn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mother's triumphant smile through that glass. Around 3 in the morning, my phone lit up with an Instagram notification. Daniela had posted a photo from last month's family dinner. There I was, slumped in my chair, eyes glazed. The caption read, "Some women struggle more than others to accept their maternal calling." Posted 3 weeks ago, but I was just seeing it now. The comments were full of sympathy for her and concern for me. I scrolled through her feed with growing horror. She'd been documenting my journey 4 months, photos of me at family gatherings, always looking tired or distracted, with captions about my baby fever and fertility struggles. In one video, I was playing with her youngest daughter, and Daniela had added text overlay, "She'll be such a good mom when she stops fighting nature." My work email pinged repeatedly. I opened it to find my inbox flooded with messages. The subject lines made my blood run cold, "Thinking of you during this difficult time. Take all the time you need. Your health comes first." My mother had sent an email to my entire firm from my account. I read it with shaking hands. "Dear colleagues, I'm writing to inform you that I'll be taking an indefinite leave of absence to address some personal health matters. As many of you know, I've been struggling with fertility issues, and the emotional toll has become overwhelming. My family is helping me get the treatment I need. Please redirect all urgent matters to the managing partners. Thank you for your understanding during this difficult time. Maria." The timestamp showed it was sent at 2:47 in the morning while I was lying awake. I tried to log into my work account to send a retraction, but my password had been changed. The recovery email had been switched to one I didn't recognize. My mother had locked me out of my professional life. 3 of my clients had already responded with supportive messages. Women I'd helped escape abusive situations now believed I was having a mental health crisis. One wrote, "I always sensed you carried deep pain about motherhood. Please don't let it consume you like it almost consumed me." The irony made me want to vomit. By 6 in the morning, the psychiatric ward's morning shift was arriving. I watched through my door's window as staff whispered to each other, glancing in my direction. News traveled fast in hospitals. They all knew I was the woman who'd attacked her mother for trying to help with fertility treatments. A breakfast tray arrived, but I couldn't eat. My hand shook too badly to hold the plastic spoon steady. When I tried to drink the juice, I noticed a bitter aftertaste and set it down immediately. After what I'd learned about the drugging at family dinners, I couldn't trust anything. Detective Rodriguez arrived at 7:30, looking exhausted. "I've been investigating all night," he said quietly, pulling his chair close. "Your mother's name appears in several concerning patterns at that fertility clinic. Young women, mostly from troubled backgrounds, suddenly decide to become egg donors or surrogates after meeting with clinic staff. Your mother often handles their intake paperwork." He showed me a folder. "But here's the problem, they all sign consent forms. They all pass psychological evaluations. On paper, everything looks legitimate. Because the system is designed to protect the clinic, not the women," I said. He nodded grimly. "I need more evidence to build a case. But right now, I'm more concerned about getting you through this evaluation safely." Dr. Whitfield arrived precisely at 8, carrying a leather briefcase and wearing a sympathetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. She was exactly as I remembered from Mom's book club, silver-haired, professionally dressed, with reading glasses on a pearl chain. "Maria, dear," she said warmly. "Your mother has told me so much about your struggles." Detective Rodriguez started to object, but she held up a manicured hand. "I'm afraid this evaluation must be conducted privately. Standard protocol." "I'm staying," he said firmly. "Then I'll have to note in my report that the patient required police supervision, which suggests violent tendencies," she replied, her smile unwavering. "Your choice, detective." He looked at me, jaw clenched. I nodded slightly. We both knew she'd already made up her mind about her report. Having him removed would just give her more ammunition. After he left, Dr. Whitfield settled into the visitor's chair and opened her briefcase. Inside, I glimpsed what looked like completed forms, evaluation results already written. "Now then," she began, pulling out a tablet. "Let's talk about your relationship with motherhood." For the next hour, every question was a trap. When I explained I'd chosen career over children, she typed notes about defensive rejection of femininity. When I mentioned helping women escape reproductive coercion, she murmured about projection of internal conflicts. When I tried to tell her about the forced injection, she asked if I often felt persecuted by maternal figures. "Your mother mentioned you'd been playing with dolls recently," she said, studying me over her glasses. "What?" "No, I haven't." "She found them in your apartment. Baby dolls hidden in your closet." She showed me a photo on her tablet, 3 dolls I'd never seen, tucked behind my winter coats. One held a tiny bottle, another had a miniature diaper bag, and the third was wrapped in a handmade blanket. "Those aren't mine," I said. "Denial is also common," Dr. Whitfield replied, typing rapidly. "Maria, there's no shame in wanting children, but when that desire becomes so overwhelming that you lash out at family members trying to help." She injected me with fertility hormones against my will. "She tried to give you a vitamin supplement. According to witnesses, you became violent and had to be restrained." She tilted her head sympathetically. "The mind can play tricks when we're under stress." Sometimes we misinterpret loving gestures as attacks. My phone buzzed with a bank notification, a large withdrawal from my savings account. When I tried to check it, Dr. Whitfield reached over and gently took the phone. "Let's focus on our conversation," she said, placing it in her briefcase. "Tell me about your jealousy toward Daniela." "I'm not jealous of my sister. 7 successful pregnancies, a loving family, the admiration of your community," she leaned forward. "Meanwhile, you've dedicated your life to preventing other women from experiencing motherhood. Don't you see the connection? Every protest I made was twisted into evidence of my instability." By the time she finished, she'd painted a picture of a woman so consumed by fertility grief that she'd constructed an elaborate persecution fantasy. That's when I heard a soft click from my pillow. A tiny note slipped from the pillowcase, folded twice with a single line written in precise letters: "Equipment room, corridor 3C, 10 tonight. S.E." My heart raced. S.E., Sarah Chan, the nurse. I pretended to be exhausted, resting my head to the side. Dr. Whitfield closed her tablet with a satisfied snap. "That will be all for today, Maria," she said, her voice sweet as poison. "The team will decide the next steps of your treatment with great care. Your mother is anxious to see you again when you're more cooperative." She left, and I stayed motionless until the shift changed. At 9:45 that night, I went to the bathroom, staying long enough to throw them off. I removed the unactivated monitoring bracelet and stumbled through the silent corridors of the administrative wing to corridor 3C. The equipment room door was ajar. Sarah was there, but not in a lab coat. She wore dark civilian clothes and gloves, with a badge around her neck that read U.S. Department of Justice. She looked me in the eyes firmly and handed me a small pen drive. "I am Sarah Chan, FBI Special Agent. I've been undercover at this clinic for 14 months, investigating a network of reproductive trafficking, medical coercion, and money laundering. And Maria, you just became the centerpiece of it all." I sat on a metal bench, my body trembling. "My mother," I whispered, "is one of the network's coordinators, not just an accomplice. She organizes recruitments, coerces women to become surrogates against their will, and profits from the illegal sale of babies." "And your sister," Sarah hesitated, "isn't a victim, Maria. She's an active accomplice." My mouth went dry. Sarah opened a laptop and showed me a video. In it, my mother and Daniela were in a room similar to the clinic's. The image wasn't perfect, but the audio was clear. "She still resists too much," said my mother. "We'll break her down gradually," Daniela replied calmly. "Leave her without support. Make it seem like she went crazy. And when she's down, she'll beg to be part of it." I cried silently. Sarah paused. "Dr. Whitfield forges psychiatric diagnoses. And there's more. James was placed in your life. One of the victims who disappeared was his ex-girlfriend. We have strong evidence he was blackmailed. He might be at risk, too." I couldn't breathe. It was as if all my recent memories had been replaced by a meticulously constructed lie. Sarah held my hands. "But you have a chance to turn the tables." "How?" She handed me a small briefcase with micro cameras, transmitters, and a secure cell phone. "You're going back home, pretending to be getting better. They'll lower their guard, and you're going to record everything. What if they discover me? Then, Maria," Sarah said with the look of someone who'd seen hell up close, "you do what your mother always feared you would do, tell the truth." The next morning, I was transferred home. Dr. Whitfield had declared to the medical committee that I was responding well to treatment and could continue recovery in a familiar environment under light monitoring. Light. That word made me laugh inside. What was light about any of this? Daniela was waiting in the lobby with 2 of her children, who smiled but had the strange look of children trained to appear perfect. She hugged me with theatrical tenderness. "We're so happy to have you back, Maria. The whole family is going to help you find your way," she said, as if reciting a play. My way, as if I had gotten lost, as if I had rebelled against a correct trajectory. Sarah had given me a phone with a secure channel. An emergency button would activate a silent GPS and a direct voice call with her. The micro cameras were disguised as everyday objects: a pendant, a coat button, a pen. The watch on my wrist transmitted everything. When I arrived at my mother's house, a nauseating smell of lavender hit my stomach. I'd always hated that smell since I was a teenager. It was the same aroma used in the relaxation sessions she forced us to endure, listening to conscious motherhood audios and guided hypnosis exercises. She had always been shaping our role. The following days were meticulously planned by them. I was treated like a recovering patient, but everything was theatrical: breakfast with natural teas I never drank, daily conversation sessions with Daniela where she spoke at length about the gift of being a woman, how I had distanced myself from who I was, and how that could be reversed with love, patience, and a little hormonal guidance. The cameras recorded everything, every phrase, every insinuation of manipulation, every dose of indoctrination. At night, in my old room, now a disguised cell, I analyzed the audios with Sarah. She told me about other women, 20 as far as they could track, young women, orphans, refugees, girls from rigid religious families, all easy targets. Some had disappeared, officially in rehabilitation clinics abroad, but with no consistent records, no messages, no trace. It's like a private prison for those who fail the mission, Sarah said. And we only have days before something happens to you, too. One early morning, while searching the house, I found a hidden storage room in the basement behind a false cabinet. The door was locked, but Sarah had given me a digital opening tool. Inside, my body froze. Boxes upon boxes of documents, passports, photos of newborns with names and dates, a panel with crossed-out names, dates, and values in dollars, pounds, euros. In a thick envelope marked with my name, I found a medical report from 2008, when I was 16. Cold words and typed letters, preventive hormonal intervention. Ovarian modulation with partial blockage. Potential candidate for premium substitute uterus after academic stabilization. They had sterilized my fertility with a long-term plan. I was an investment, like a breeding animal awaiting maturation. I vomited on the cold cement floor. I recorded everything, scanned it, and sent it to Sarah. The climax came at a family dinner. My mother summoned everyone. Daniela arrived in a beige dress clinging to her swollen belly. James came too, exchanging embarrassed looks with me but still acting like a puppet. We sat at the table with carefully arranged plates and soft light. I wore the necklace with the embedded camera. I said what Sarah suggested. I've been thinking. Maybe you're right. Maybe I resisted too much. A gleam crossed my mother's eyes. That's wonderful, dear. We're here to help you return to what you always were. In fact, Daniela said with a sweet, poisonous tone, we found a very loving French couple. They would very much like to talk to you. I'd love to know more, I replied, smiling. My mother raised her glass. To Maria's new phase. May it be fertile, she said, raising the toast. I took a deep breath. Before that, can I ask a question? Of course, she said, radiant. Why prepare me my whole life for this and take away my chance to choose? Silence. What do you mean? She said, feigning confusion. I'm asking if you remember what you had done to me at 16. Because I found out, recorded it, and sent it. The glass trembled in her hand. Daniela dropped her fork. You didn't understand anything, my mother said, her voice lower. That was for your own good. How is breaking a person for their own good? I shot back. Before I could continue, Daniela stood up. She's recording. She's recording everything, she screamed, lunging at me and tearing off the necklace. My watch vibrated, signaling the transmission had been interrupted. I tried to run to the hallway, but they held me back. My mother whispered, you could have been part of this, Maria, but you preferred to be our enemy. I understood there was no going back. I broke free with a sudden arm movement, pushing Daniela against the wall. A family photo frame fell and broke. I ran barefoot, heart pounding, with no plan, just impulse. Behind me, I heard screams, my mother ordering the doors locked, Daniela's desperate breathing. In the hallway, I bumped into James. He hesitated for a second, and I saw confusion, guilt, and fear in his eyes. I stretched out my arm and whispered, if there's still something human in you, let me pass. He moved aside, and I ran through the back door, through the garden, and jumped the fence. The brush cut my skin, and the earth soiled my feet, but I didn't stop. I reached a neighbor's unlocked car from my childhood, stole a phone from the dashboard, and called Sarah with trembling fingers. They're coming after me, I said, breathless. Stay calm. I'm tracking the backup signal. Go to the address I sent you in the escape protocol. It's saved on the phone's second chip. She hung up before I could respond. Undercover or not, she knew how to protect a victim on the run. The address led to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. Sarah was there, sitting on a bench with her arm bandaged. Were you attacked? I asked. They found out. They tried to silence me, she said, pointing to a backpack beside her. But I managed to recover the cloud backups, their confession, the basement material, even the report of your sterilization. It's all here. I lost the camera, the necklace. It doesn't matter. You're alive. And now you have another role in this story. She opened the backpack, revealing a tablet configured for automatic live stream with links to social networks, whistleblowing forums, independent journalists, and an anonymous server. You're going to be the one to expose everything. What if they come first? They will come, she stared at me. That's why you need to run faster than them and scream louder. The next morning, the video started circulating. My face, tired but firm, appeared on the screen. My name is Maria Gonzalez. I'm a lawyer specializing in medical ethics and reproductive rights. In recent years, I've been targeted by an organization that presents itself as a fertility clinic, but behind the marketing, it hides an empire of coercion, manipulation, trafficking, and psychological violence against women. I showed the boxes of documents, evidence, everything live. This network involves doctors, psychologists, lawyers, judges, and even police members. And it has a face, my mother, Patricia Gonzalez, and an accomplice, my sister, Daniela Gonzalez, recruiter and symbolic surrogate of a rotten system. I revealed the files, photos, videos, handwritten notes, forged signatures, my sterilization document, and disappearance records of other victims. If something happens to me, I concluded, know that they tried to silence me, but the truth is already out, and there's no way to erase this from the world's memory. Within an hour, the video was everywhere. Hashtags, shares, journalists commenting in real time, emails from victims who'd been through blessed beginnings and always felt something was wrong. But with visibility came terror. A GPS notification pinged, movement detected. 2 vehicles approaching. Sarah pulled a gun from the backpack. We have to leave now. She unlocked the warehouse's back gate and threw a backpack on my shoulders. We ran to an old pickup truck camouflaged as a delivery vehicle. A shot hit the wall where I'd been seconds before. Daniela stepped out of a black SUV, wearing sportswear but with the face of a predator. Behind her were 2 men, a doctor and a police officer who'd visited the clinic. Sarah accelerated. They followed. The chase lasted half an hour, weaving through dirt roads and bumps until Sarah lost control. I hit my head on the dashboard, and the world spun. When I woke, Sarah was gone, blood on the steering wheel. I called her name, swallowing hard. I heard a noise and staggered out of the car. Sarah was on the ground, tied up, being taken by 2 men into a second car that disappeared. I tried to run but fell to my knees in the mud. James appeared, alone, hurt, with a cut lip and torn shirt. I broke free from them, he said, breathless. I saw what you did, the video. Maria, forgive me. I didn't know everything, but they used me. They threatened me. Rebecca, my ex, she disappeared after questioning Daniela. They said I'd be next. Why are you here? To help you finish this. He pulled a laminated sheet from his pocket, a birth certificate. Your real birth certificate. Mother's name, Lucia Mendez. Father's name, Eduardo Gonzalez. You were adopted, kidnapped. Your biological mother worked at the clinic, discovered the scheme, tried to escape, and was never seen again. Patricia registered you as her daughter 2 months later. The pieces fit together, my inexplicable aversion, fragmented childhood memories, dreams that were suppressed memories. Was Daniela also? No. Daniela was raised from birth by Patricia. She never knew another world. She's the perfect product, the ideal daughter, the successful experiment. So she was never my sister. James nodded. You have no idea what she's capable of to keep that world alive. She's already started, I replied. My phone lit up with a notification, life suspended. Account banned for offensive content report. James looked at me. Then we're going to the heart of this and end everything. The clinic. That's where they are. And they're not alone. What? There's a hidden place, an underground floor with women, pregnant, imprisoned. My breath failed. We're going to free them and show this to the world. Even if we die trying? He answered without hesitation. I'd rather die free than live as an accomplice. We walked, rain falling, tires spinning in the mud. The Blessed Beginnings clinic seemed too peaceful, with white signs and artificial flowers in the windows. The smiling receptionist had perfect teeth. If I hadn't been through what I had, I'd have found it welcoming. But every detail was a trap. James and I arrived before dawn. The plan was simple and insane: invade the hidden basement, collect images, free the women, and expose the truth with a secure transmission Sarah had programmed on a second, harder-to-take-down server. We entered through the back using James's still-functional visitor badge. During the shift change, no one noticed. We passed consultation rooms and walls decorated with pictures of happy babies and inspirational phrases about the miracle of life. Everything was a lie. In the storage wing, behind a false wall James had discovered months before, was a panel with a digital keypad. He typed the password, Life for All. The wall slid open with a click. We descended a trembling metal staircase into damp, stuffy concrete. The horror revealed itself, a corridor with frosted glass doors. Inside were women of different ages and ethnicities, some too young, others visibly medicated, some crying, others with empty eyes. Some had huge bellies, others had recently given birth. There were no cribs. Where are the babies? I asked in shock. James lowered his eyes. Most never even get to know the mother who carried them. Tears burned my eyes. This wasn't a clinic, it was a human extraction camp. I took Sarah's tablet, started the transmission, connected to the secure network, and began filming. This is the truth, I said, showing everything, room by room, name by name, women's files, syringes, medical exams, contracts with illegal clauses, the cell they called the restroom. The transmission exploded in minutes. Access rose, comments flooded in, victims identified themselves, and lawyers offered support. A human rights lawyer went live on a parallel stream, confirming she'd sued the clinic years before, but the case had been mysteriously filed away. Then we heard footsteps. Daniela came down the steps, her expression pure hatred. She was alone but armed, pointing a gun at me. I loved you like a sister, she said, even knowing you never were one. Sisters don't sell sisters, I replied. I gave my life for this cause. You destroyed everything. My name, my mission, my son, your son? I asked, surprised. She hesitated, the gun trembling. He was born yesterday and was already delivered to a couple in Singapore. I never even held him. A brutal silence settled. She lowered the gun for a second, her mask of pride crumbling. They said I couldn't. That attachment was weakness, that I'm too strong for that. You're also a victim, Daniela, since you were a baby. She laughed bitterly. No, I am the perfect product, what you refuse to be. One of the doors opened. A pregnant woman, about 19, stepped out, holding her belly. Is everything okay? She asked. Daniela snapped, screaming and pointing the gun at the girl. Don't move. Nobody leaves here. You are my legacy. No. I screamed, lunging forward. She pulled the trigger, but James was faster, throwing himself between Daniela and the young woman, pushing both aside. The gun fell. A fight began between James and Daniela. I ran to the pregnant woman, helping her out of the corridor. An alarm went off, the security system had been activated. Daniela ran to the control panel, typing codes frantically. Sirens sounded, steel doors began closing, and lights flickered. She's going to destroy everything, James shouted. She's going to seal the place. We can't leave these women here. I ran to the panel, but the password was blocked. I looked at Daniela, bleeding and fallen against the wall, her eyes still alive. Give me the password, I pleaded. She smiled, teeth dirty with blood. You can save the evidence or save them. You can't do both. I did what she wouldn't do. I dropped the tablet, ran to the electrical panel, and ripped out the power wires. The energy cut out, the doors jammed and stopped closing. James freed the last women. We screamed names, embraced strangers, and guided women with huge bellies through dark corridors with cell phone flashlights. When we got out, the sun was rising. Behind us, the clinic was burning, a short circuit in the panel caused sparks, and the basement, with its files and Daniela inside, collapsed. She never came out. Daniela, who lived to give life, died where lives were stripped of their right to exist fully. In the following weeks, arrests came. Operation Genesis, coordinated by the FBI with international support, closed clinics in 4 countries. Patricia Gonzalez was arrested trying to flee with false documents, bail was denied. Dr. Whitfield, captured at a resort in Palm Springs, lost her license and will answer for falsifying reports and complicity in kidnapping. James, injured, testified as a key witness and visits me weekly while recovering. Sarah, saved by federal agents, returned to active duty and now coordinates a special division for reproductive crimes. I found my biological mother, living under another name in federal protection. She'd reported the network years ago and disappeared to protect herself. She recognized me immediately. Forgive me for not being able to protect you, she said. Now I'm the one who will protect others, I replied. We founded the Aurora Institute, a nonprofit to support victims of reproductive coercion. We receive dozens of women weekly, and I speak with each one, looking them in the eyes and saying, you are more than a uterus. You are an entire life that deserves to be respected. 2 months ago, I discovered I'm pregnant, without hidden needles, forced hormones, pressure, or contracts. Just freedom. My body, my choice, my life, my rebirth.